It's 4 o'clock on a Friday, and you know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of TAXI Quarantini Happy Hour. Woohoo! Notice how loud the band is today. And thank you, fake band. Thank you, fake audience. Say hello to the guys and gals in the chat room. Hello, Akira Canyon, Dan Weber, Bob Gunnerfelt, Martin Gravel. I'm shocked that you guys are here. Nancy Kalel. Hi, Michael. Hi, Nance. Let's see. Everybody else is asleep at the switch, I think. Okay, so before I go any farther, hello, Daryl143 Jazz, Darren Fletcher, Michael McGraw, Il Rosso Emile, Trev Fury, just got the notification. That's all right. Just started like 30 seconds ago. John Pearson, TGIF. Hey, Michael. How are you? Hi, John. Hi, Michael and all from Andre Stepanian, Pete Mason. All right. So before I go any further, I was complaining to Ariana this morning that I look kind of like a carp or a tarpon in some of the thumbnails. And she said, maybe you could take a moment during the show, just before or just after, and do some poses for me for the thumbnails. So here you go, Ari. I can't even see what I look like. Oh, man. Anything where I'm not looking like this. I got a lot of those in the thumbnails. Oh, man. There you go. A smiley one. Did that give you what you need, Ariana? I feel like such a doofus. Giovanni Lanza, it's birthday time for you? Well, happy birthday. Nice. Well, I won't ask how old you are, but however many years it is, congratulations on living that long. Hopefully it's been a fruitful and wonderful life, and may you have many, many, many more years. Oh, man. Thinking about fishing. There you go. Reeling in the big one. Ariana's busy snapping screenshots. So I thought that I had somebody fun and interesting that I could call today for the show. Unfortunately, that gentleman... all right, Ariana's got one. Yay. That gentleman couldn't do it. He had to deal with a family thing that I'm certain was much more important than doing Taxi TV. So that's it. Show's over. Bye. Have a great weekend. Oh, man. The pose thing could be part of the ritual for each episode along with the subscribe signs. Yeah, you know, I've kind of missed those signs, as hokey as they are, but they're back at the office. Speaking of things that are back at the office, I feel a burp coming. Wonder what Johnny Carson did. Excuse me, when he had to burp. Well, I guess they could edit that out, but not on this show. Anyway, hello, Ron Schultz. So speaking of things back at the office, after I set Steve Barden up the other day to do the show, which was a great show, he couldn't scoot any further back from his computer because he was using, I have a feeling, headphones very similar to these, which only have about 3 feet of length. Whee! Looks bigger on screen than in real life. My Zoom meeting last night with Australia was wonderful. Thank you for asking. Nicest guy in the world. So after the show was over, I ordered Steve Barden and myself both some nice fancy headphone extension cables. And they were supposed to be delivered on Monday. So I thought, okay, well, great. I won't get it delivered to the house because somebody will jack it from the front door. I'll get it delivered to the office because that's where I'll be on Monday. Guess what got delivered to the office today? Yep, Barden got his to his house. And they said a human being actually received them. But they said that a resident at my office took custody of the headphone cable. Funny thing is, none of us are at the office. So, curious to see. Maybe they left it with the guys in the office next door. We do that sometimes because we're good neighbors to each other. So, I did find. What did I find? Did I already cover this one? Somebody asked, somebody named EMR. Hi, Michael. I'm a songwriter and producer in Ireland. Unfortunately, with the time difference, I missed the live shows. But I've been wondering for a while, and a lot of feedback that I'm getting, I'm asked for a wider melodic arc. Can you explain what that means? I've been trying to research it, but I haven't found a clear answer. Also, I'm not sure if you remember your letter of, oh, I do remember, letter of support of me, but it worked, and now I've received a grant to head over to the Taxi Road Rally this November. I do remember writing that letter for that. I believe it was a young lady in Ireland that was getting a grant. Here in the United States, speaking of Grant, didn't they tear down the Ulysses S. Grant statue? I don't understand that. That's weird. Anyway, I can't remember. Do you guys remember if I answered this one already? Hello, Pierre. Joseph Alonso says, Michael, it's on your desk. Oh, I see. There's Liz. Hi, Liz. Matt and you were there today, so you guys received it. It's on my desk. Awesome. Good job. Thank you. Okay, so you guys said I don't think it is. So for EMR, I hope you're watching. I hope you're watching the archive version. When they say they want a wider melodic arc, I'm really not 100% sure, to be honest with you. A wider melodic arc. I mean, it probably means that your melody is just not going anywhere, that it's kind of a standard melody with not, the intervals are kind of narrow, and I would say if they said they wanted a wider arc in general, that I would understand, which is they want it to start out kind of skinny and small and light and sparse, and then build to like a medium level, and then a little higher, and then drop back down to bare bones, and then build it back up, and then boom, big finish with an exclamation point. But a wider melodic arc, I can only think that that's referring to the intervals in your melody. That it's just I don't know what a narrow melodic arc. Does this make sense to you guys? As wide as a rainbow. There you go, Cass. It doesn't say if it's a vocal tune or not. It doesn't say. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. If it was a vocal tune, then you'd want somebody that gets a little rangier on the vocal. If it's an instrumental, it probably shouldn't have much of a lead melody anyway, or if it's a cue. So, don't know. More melodic contrast, assuming it never climbed. The Reshkis are listening in the car. That's dangerous. Not enough movement. Yeah, so I think these are all valid answers. So EMR, I hope when you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do while brushing your teeth is watching the replay of this show. There you go. A longer melody? Nah, probably not longer, just more movement in the melody, I don't know. Frankly, I've never seen a screener. I'd be shocked to know, and I do want to know if more than one screener said that you need a wider melodic arc, or if that was just what one screener said, but other people mentioned it in some other phraseology. I'm not sure. I do think I answered this one from Tony Salazzo, who I don't think is in the room yet today. Tony, are you skipping class today? Okay, so Tony Salazzo, this was days ago that I got these, I think, and they just got buried. Most of the regulars already know, but maybe an episode about the forums, that's with an S, forwards and blogs is warranted. There's gold in them there hills. I did talk about that. I remember talking about that one of the things that our successful members all agree on is that you should go to the forward section of the forums. That's forums with an S.taxi.com. Go there and check out what other people are getting forwarded to, and very frequently they will post a link to the thing that got forwarded so you can read the listing and see what got forwarded and go, oh, so that's kind of how you nail that genre, and that's how you get over the bar. Tony says, where else would I be? So thank you for that, Tony. Forums with an S.taxi.com /forwards, I believe, is how you get there. And then we do a blog, which is blog.taxi.com /forward. Ariana will know better than I do. I believe it's forwards with an S. The forwards blog does not show dispatch forwards. That's interesting. I did not know that. Ariana, we should talk about that next week when we see each other in person for the first time in 3 months. Gotta say, little excited. Not overly excited, but no, I am. I'm excited to see the staff. It was really nice when they were here for Bria's departure party. By the way, I did communicate with Bria yesterday and told her she still had time to chicken out, turn around, and come back, and that we'd hide her. But she did laugh at that, but I don't think she showed that to her fiance, Jacob. And the last I heard, she was somewhere in the Midwest. I won't give you exact locations. So anyway, yes, thank you, Tony, for suggesting that. And now let's get on to the most important topic of the day, and it is fishing. Fishing, I tell you. This is from Andrei Stepanian. Big surprise. Hi, Michael and staff. Another fun show. Be thinking about you guys when I'm fly fishing. Michael, where can I send you fishing photos? Don't know if it's appropriate to send via taxi email or not. If it is, do I need to say please forward to Michael, or you automatically receive them anyway? Oh, God, no. I've got somewhere over 10,000 emails in just one of my accounts. I have about 5 different email accounts that are active, 3 that are very active, one which is particularly active, and that one, believe it or not, has somewhere around 10,225 emails sitting in it. And just know that those aren't emails that I was too lazy to delete or to read. Those are emails that I've read and go, oh, I should probably answer that. But right now I've got to get, these listings proofed or get something ready for the show or whatever. And I save them to go back and deal with them later, and I don't. And sometimes on weekends I'll just sit there endlessly for, literally 8 to 10 hours sitting on my bed with my laptop, going through emails, calling people. I mean, there's a music library owner who I adore. Greatest guy in the world, and he shot me an email and said, calls me ML, he goes, ML, give me a call when you can. And generally he doesn't reach out to me unless it's something fairly urgent. So that was, I believe, 8 days ago, and I still haven't gotten back to him. That's how sad things are here. How many pending listings do you have? You mean how many that we haven't published that are in the bucket? Anyway, anyway, so if that's what you meant by that question, I think currently we have, I want to say 67 as of dinner time last night. Could be up or down by a handful from that. How many pending listings do you guys have? No, individually. I don't understand the question. Here, Ariana, I'm posing again. Oh, man. People's listing. I don't understand what you mean, Pierre. Why do beta fish die so soon? What is their life expectancy? I've actually had beta fish in an aquarium. Here's a little known fact. Back before, let's see if anybody can remember, because I've mentioned this on the show before. Here's a little Lasco trivia. What job did I have? There were actually two jobs that I had in the 2 years prior to getting my job at Criteria Studios. And no, Ariana, that here, do let's do a fish face. Um, yeah, what are the two jobs that I held before I got my job at Criteria? Oh, I don't procrastinate about answering them, Jan. I just don't have the time. I mean, seriously, there are days where I spend 2 to 3 hours in the morning, toothbrush salesman. No, used toothbrush salesman, male model, definitely not. Uh, Fishmonger, there you go. I should have been. Pet shop, no. Shoe store, Darren Moss. You have a mind like a steel trap. That's one of them. Well, there you go. Hit the like button. 50 people watching and only 16 likes. Demolition expert? Well, not that I would admit publicly, but there were definitely some bird baths and mailboxes in Ottawa, Illinois that may or may not have taken a hit from a 12-year-old with M80s. Yep, I was not a florist. Have you ever had a fish boil? No, once I took the light socket, not since I took the light socket out of the aquarium. Stockbroker, clothing store. I'm going to have to give you half credit for that answer, Joseph, because yeah, my parents did own a small department store in the little farm town I grew up in, and I would work there. Do you know? Here's a piece of trivia for you. The first thing, could you imagine somebody tuning into this show thinks they're going to get a music education? The first thing I ever sold in my life, I was like 5 or 6 or 7 years old. And I believe it was my grandfather said to me, there were some women over in the lingerie department. I was a kid. I was like, waist high to my grandfather. And he said, look at those ladies over there. If you can sell that lady a girdle, you can sell anything. And I went over there and went, can I help you? And she was with two other women. And even at that young age, I realized the look of astonishment on their face was priceless. But the lady did buy a girdle, and I took her over to the cash register. Back then, you would actually, we didn't have computerized cash registers. They were the old clunky mechanical ones, and you had to write up a sales thing. There was no little gizmo that spit out a receipt or anything. You had to write it up. One Playtex girdle, $16.99. You had to calculate the tax on a 10 key. So yes, I did sell a girdle. I worked at a bait shop. You're actually kind of close, Joseph. Now I understand Pierre's question. Yep, Playtex girdle. Are girdles still a thing? Can some of the ladies in the chat room let us know, those of us who are men? Change the name from taxi to girdle. There you go. My wife would like to have your cookbook even though she hates to cook. It's the stuff in between the recipes. She would probably never let you watch the show again. It was basically how to entice the ladies into loving you a lot by cooking a really spectacular meal and being a gentleman and having a clean apartment. But there was, did I sell bras too? I do remember we did have Cross Your Heart bras. You bred fish. Oh, you are so close. Don't be so sexist. I'm wearing one now. Oh, that's right. Mrs. Mason says no, they're called Spanx. Boy, there's an invention I wish I'd made. Recipes for getting some. Yeah, that was probably the subtitle of the book. I breaded the fish. Nope. Okay, I'm going to tell you what it was. I was a professional scuba diver for a company named Reef Incorporated, which was right down the street from Miami International Airport. It was a startup company. I was the third person hired. Well, there was the owner, and then there was the vice president. And I was, I believe, 17 and a half or 18 years old, and I got a job there. I got certified as a scuba diver when I was at summer camp. I was 12 years old, and then got recertified again by doing an ice dive. Ooh, doing a blackout ice dive in late February, early March in a golf course lake that still had ice on it in Illinois. And you know what? You never want to do a blackout means you put black construction paper or cardboard in your mask. And you go down and have to feel your way around to find, they throw your regulator and your tank in the water in the bottom of the lake, and you have to swim out to it and then do a surface dive. So, they also throw your weight belt in the bottom of the lake. So here's what you don't want to do, which is put on a wetsuit that's just a little too big on the bottom. So you have to swim out to the middle of the lake with a mask that's blacked out, do a surface dive, go down about 20 feet, but you're wearing a wetsuit, so you're super buoyant and don't have on a weight belt to make yourself neutral or negative so that you sink. And you do a surface dive and you have to power down. I mean, really hump it to get down there to start feeling around the bottom of the lake. And God only knows, you're like fully expecting to find a dead body or something down there, or glass, or, like an old rusty whatever. And feeling around. And the first thing you have to do is find the weight belt and get that on to make yourself at least, negative or slightly negative or neutrally buoyant. And then you go back up to the surface and take a big gulp of air, and then you go back down again, and then you feel around, and you have to find your regulator, and then you go back up again holding the regulator in your hand, then you do another surface dive, you go down, you find the tank, you put the regulator on it. But when you put a regulator on in the water and tighten it down, you have to remember to hit the exhaust button or the clear button and really blow like a you-know-what to clear out the tube. Otherwise, you do get water. But the most important thing you should know if you are ever doing a cold water dive is make sure the wetsuit fits. Because if it doesn't and you kick your legs, you get a rush of like 40 degree water in a certain part of the male anatomy. And I'm sure all the guys can relate to this. Ouch. That's all I can say is ouch. Did they run a dive flag where my gear was? No. I mean, it was a pretty small lake, It was filled with golf balls, by the way. Everywhere I felt around on the bottom, there were like 1 million golf balls down there. Okay, so there was that. So I got an ad, or no, I didn't answer an ad for the job at Reef Incorporated. One of my two best friends, we were like brothers in college. He was like the Indiana Jones of animal smuggling, bringing animals that exotic animals into the United States that you were not allowed to bring in. He worked at a place called Pet Farm, also located in Miami, right by the airport. So they had, anything from like orangutans to chimpanzees. Somewhere I've got a picture of me with a baby chimpanzee wearing diapers. The thing was near death, and they needed somebody to take it home for a weekend and bottle feed it and try and keep it alive. So I got the job, and I have a picture of me holding this cute little chimp. Anyway, so my friend Dan called me up, and yes, I did pass the test and got recertified, or certified at a higher level. I don't even remember what the level was called. But so Dan called me up and he goes, hey, there's a new company down the block from us called Reef Incorporated, and they are saltwater fish brokers selling to pet stores, high-end collectors, and seaquariums and aquariums, that sort of thing. So I went, and it was just the owner, and I remember the vice president of the company was a guy named Tony Grimaldi. And They had a warehouse with 550-gallon saltwater tanks in it. They had a couple of 750-gallon tanks that had small sharks in it, which was really, I'll tell you about that in a minute. With the chimp was not wearing a girdle. I think Darren Moss needs to hang out with Scott Hansen. You guys could go on the road together. Anyway, and we had several like 100-gallon tanks. And what we did was we had divers working for us all over the world that would ship us these fish. We had about 4 divers working in the Florida Keys. We had several divers over in the Mediterranean. I can't remember where else. So when you collect fish back then, I mean, you can't catch them with a net. We're talking, little fish. Sometimes they're fish about this big, but oftentimes they're like Nemo-sized fish. And believe me, there's no way to catch a fish like that in a net. So we had this drug called quinaldine that I always said was like liquid quaaludes for fish. And you would mix like a teaspoon of quinaldine, I think, in like a Joy dishwashing detergent bottle, mix it up with water, and then take it down. And when you see a Nemo swim into a coral head, you squeeze the bottle and this white cloud of stuff rolls into the coral head. Probably not good for the coral, but this was the early 70s and nobody knew any better. And the fish would swim out and then it would fall asleep. It would just kind of go bloop and lay over on its side. So you would take a little net and scoop it and then put it in a net bag that went hooked onto your weight belt. So they hired me because I was an experienced scuba diver, and my job was to split my time between tending to stuff in the warehouse, and I immediately hired 2 roommates of mine. Big mistake. And also 2 or 3 days a week, I would go down and train these Bahamian guys how to collect fish. So I would drive to the Miami Herald, which was near downtown Miami, and it was also the back of the Miami Herald was on the water. I believe that was so that they could get the giant rolls of paper that they used to print the newspaper on. They probably came in on some sort of large ship or something. So I would go down to the Miami Herald and then walk to the back, and a little seaplane, can't remember the name of the plane, but it was something like, I can't remember now. But it was like a 4-seater Cessna with pontoons on it. It was like a Cessna 182 with pontoons. And the pilot was awesome. And I used to have to get down there like 7 o'clock in the morning, which for a college kid who was probably staying up really late partying, 7 o'clock in the morning was a hard number to hit, but I always made it on time. And I would get on the plane and just stretch out in the back 2 seats and sleep. And he'd say, okay, we're putting it down. And I don't know if you're asking if the Cessna was military or civilian. It was civilian, if that's the one we're talking about. Anyway, and then we would land several different places in the Bahamas. And my job was to teach these Bahamian guys who were a little bit rustic. They weren't very sophisticated on the fish snatching. They were like, they would use slurp guns, these clear plastic things that you would slurp up the fish and just beat the crap out of the fish. Not cool. Anyway, how many kilos in the side? So that's what we're talking about. We've moved on to talking about kilos. Yes, Nancy, I was a fish drugger. I partied my ass off with Nemo. So anyway, the best part of that job was 2 or 3 days a week. I got to go diving in the Bahamas, train the Bahamian guys how to collect the fish without harming them, and then fly home with these styrofoam containers filled with bags that we would take oxygen, or air actually, from a scuba tank and put the fish in a bag, blow up the bag with some air, tie it off, stuff it in a styrofoam container, put it in the back of the plane, actually in the luggage compartment, and bring it back to the warehouse. But at the end of the day, almost every day with the Bahamians, we would do a quick dive down and grab some lobsters. Now, these are like Florida or Atlantic spiny lobsters, not like that kind of lobster. These guys had very little claws. They could hardly hurt you. Hello, Edmund. And then we would just take the lobster and put a stick through it and start a little bonfire on the beach. Nothing more delicious than eating just barely cooked lobster over an open smoky fire on a Bahamian beach at sundown, and then get back on the plane and fly back, yeah, like Langostino, and then fly back to Miami. So that was how I spent 2 or 3 days a week, and the rest of the time I'd be in the warehouse. Cool thing about working in the warehouse, it was a big warehouse filled with just like hundreds of thousands of fish that we would then, stabilize them, make sure that they were free of ick, which is a common fish disease, then bag them up and ship them out to pet stores and stuff. And sometimes in Miami, if anybody lived in South Florida back in the 70s, it was not unusual for the power to go out when there was a severe thunderstorm. So if there was a severe thunderstorm at like 4 o'clock in the morning, we'd come to work at 7 or 8 in the morning, and there would be hundreds of thousands of fish on the concrete floor flopping around. It was really sad. Obviously, we would scoop as many of them up as we could, throw them back in the aquariums, and a certain number of them, angelfish in particular, didn't revive very well. So we would get these. They were called black angels, and they were about this big, and man, were they good eating. I hate to say it. I know that some people will be offended, but if the fish flopped out on the floor and they were just like barely alive, you'd put them in the tank and they would just lay there on their sides, and start sinking to the bottom. We'd scoop them out with a net, put them in a baggie, stick them in the refrigerator, take them home, and eat them. Anyway, that's my exciting life. Have you guys done anything fun like that lately? Yeah, most people don't know angelfish are edible. They're actually pretty good. John Pearson said that's called recycling. Oh, man. Yeah, we tried so hard. We even at one point got a generator for the building. I remember the generator was like $4,500 in like 1971 or 72. And sometimes the power would go out and the generator would run out of gas. It would be out for so long. Um, yeah, angelfish, they pan fry really nicely, Andre. No mouth to big mouth. Wow, I just spent 29 minutes talking about fish in tanks. Nope, they didn't die in vain. Oh, we also had, if you ever have the chance to own baby octopi, we had a tank that was probably a 500-gallon fiberglass tank. Not better tasting than snook, John. Nothing's better tasting than snook. Anyway, we had a tank with hundreds, maybe even thousands of baby octopi that were, like if you stretched out their little arms, 2, 3, 4 inches across. These little guys are so smart. You've seen them, like you put food in a jar and drop the jar in the water. They will take the jar and unscrew the lid of like a ball mason jar to get to the food. They're that smart. Those guys, they're trainable. They're like a dog. We used to feed them diced clams and other forms of chum-like stuff, and they loved it, but they particularly liked the diced clams. And when they saw you walk up to the side of the aquarium, if you had diced clams, like in a container, could have been a can, I guess, back then, probably not Tupperware, whatever we had them in. They could tell the difference between the chum bucket and the diced clam in the container. So if it was the chum bucket, they would just like whatever. You'd throw the stuff in there and eventually they'd get around to eating it. But the clams, they loved. So as soon as they saw you standing next to the side of this thing, and it was like the turquoise fiberglass stuff like they make some boats out of. So it wasn't like it was clear and they could, the thing was like waist high and sitting on the ground. But if they could see you up through the water and see that you had the clam container in your hand, all those little octopi would come over to the side and cling onto the side, just sitting there waiting for you to dump clams in their little beaks. It was cute. 8 legs and a beak. Now, yep, there's a song title for you. All right, what else should we talk about today? No gophers today. I guess we could talk about music stuff. I feel so sorry for people that tune into today's episode. It's like, why is this putz talking about fish and octopi and gophers? It's because the person I wanted to interview today ain't available. Ooh, we're talking about jumping out of airplanes. That was another thing I did when I was 18 and first moved to Miami. Mark Reel's asking, did I ever skydive? Okay, two quick stories. You know my stories are never quick. Yes, there was an old airport in South Miami. Not quite Homestead area, but I can't remember. That's funny. I hear my wife's cell phone ringing upstairs, and she's not here. Um, anyway, yes, I can't remember that. I think it was maybe no, not Tamiami Airport. Anyway, it was a shutdown airport. It was like a part of a CIA airport, actually, back in the '60s, and the CIA had gotten over the whole Cuba thing and kind of moved out of town more or less. So this airstrip was there, and I paid like $50 to go through about 3 hours of training in a classroom, and then went up. It was a static line jump. Gotta say, not that exciting, nor was it that scary. But again, I think, oh no, it wasn't a Cessna. Can't remember the kind of plane. It was bigger than a Cessna. Oh well. And there were like four of us in there, and you jump out. Static line just means, you're hooked to a line, and as soon as you jump out of the plane, the line pulls the chute out of your backpack, and you just float down. Really not that exciting. Where did I go? Here I am. So that was when I think I was 18. And then when I was about 40 something ish, Deb and I and our two little girls or actually only Hannah was born, and she was about, I want to say 2 years old. We were in Idaho, somewhere near Sun Valley, Idaho, visiting my in-laws, and we were staying in this really cute hotel. And I woke up in the morning, walked outside, and I saw people. What do they call those things? It looks like a big banana-shaped parachute, not a hang glider. What do they call those things? I can't remember now. Anyway, I remember standing out on like the little patio saying to Deb, "That looks really fun. I think I'll parasailing. Thank you." And I said, "I want to do that." She goes, "Really? That's not like you." And I said, "Yeah, it is. I want to do it." So we went over, and I remember it was $135 to do it, and I had to buy a jacket because it was the middle of the summer, and on the ground it was like 105 degrees down in the valley. But at the top of the mountain, it was like 35 degrees and windy and cold. Well, I guess 35 degrees tells you it's cold. So I went to a sporting goods store and I bought a particular jacket, and I went with the guy. You go up a ski lift to the top of the Sun Valley Ski Resort, whatever the tallest mountain is there, which I believe was like 10,700 feet or something, fairly high. So I said to the guy, in the chairlift going up there, has anybody ever been injured or died doing this? He goes, "Not here, not even a scratch." And I went, "Okay, cool, let's do it." So the guy is on my back, strapped on with all this nylon webbing stuff. And it's like a big double wide parasail. And the deal is that the guy, did one of these looking for the wind. And he kept saying, "Not that windy today. Having a hard time telling where the wind is coming from." That should have been my first warning right there. When the guy can't find the wind and can't find the direction the wind's coming from, you know you're going to be in deep trouble. So the deal is you run about, 50 to 100 feet down the slope of the mountain. And then at some point, you get airborne, and then you're over the edge. You're off the cliff, and you are on your own, okay? So the guy says, "Here's the deal. When I yell go, as soon as I feel a breeze hitting our face, I'm going to yell go and just run harder than you've ever run in your life. And I'm going to run in step with you. Don't worry about me. I will be running in sync with you." Great. So all of a sudden he yells, go, 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 go. And we start running. I'm running, thinking I'm going to die of a heart attack before we ever get airborne. And then we're airborne and we get to about, I don't know, our feet were somewhere around 12 or 15 feet off the ground, I would say. And all of a sudden you hear whop, this horrible sound, and the canopy just folded in on itself and did a 360, and we came slamming into the ground with this dude on my back. And we just tumbled and rolled down the hill, heading right for the cliff to go over the edge. And thank God we hit this massive boulder. I dislocated this shoulder. He broke his helmet, and he was like, like a Warner Brothers cartoon. We were so tangled up in all the lines, and some people saw us go down, and it took them like 10 minutes to get to us, and they helped us get untangled. It took a good half hour to get untangled. And I said to the guy, like, not a scratch, right? And he goes, this was a first. I said, thank you, I'm honored. No, my wife wasn't freaked out because she couldn't see us. I mean, she was 10,000 feet below us. She was probably going, yay! Anyway, I do remember, so we got the lines untangled. Those other people helped us, and the instructor took his thumb and his index finger and licked them. Here, I've got a prop right here. And he's doing this. He's feeling for frayed areas on all the lines. And he goes through every one of the lines. And then he goes, we're good to go. And I said, good to go? I want a refund, dude. I don't want to do that again. He goes, no, we don't give refunds. Could you believe it? They don't give refunds when they almost get you killed. So I said, you know what? I came all the way up here to do this. I'm going to do it. So we did it again, and I will never forget the feeling of being, once you get over that cliff, it's 10,000 feet straight down. My wife and my daughter Sarah, who was about 15 at the time, and Hannah was like a year and a half, 2 years old in a stroller, and I couldn't even see them. I could tell where the parking lot was that they were, and that's where we were going to land. And so once we got airborne, and first of all, I thought it would be beautiful and silent and, just peaceful, and you're up there soaring. Instead, you hear whap, 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 the sound of the chambers in the airfoil just going whap, 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 whap. And every time they're going whap, 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 I'm thinking that thing's going to collapse again. And my family is going to see me plummet 10,000 feet into a puddle on the ground in front of them. And so I really didn't enjoy the ride down because I had this fear of having my family be horrified watching me die right in front of them. Luckily, we made it down in one piece. I got to fly it most of the way down, and then right before we landed, the guy says, why don't you do the landing? It's like, I may have used a choice word or two. Mark Reel's instructor was killed in a jump 2 weeks after my first jump. I continued to jump anyway. We all know the risk we take. He was a great guy. Wow. That's sad. I haven't done bungee jumping. I don't know that I will ever do bungee jumping. Anyway, so there's that. So now we've covered collecting fish, paragliding or parasailing, whatever it's called. I would actually do that again. There's a place that you can go in the South Bay area of Los Angeles that people do it off a cliff there, and it actually looks like fun. How did the Zoom call go yesterday? You will know because I believe I believe that the listing either just probably hit your mailboxes or I've done ziplining or is about to. Yeah, it's a listing for a TV commercial for a restaurant chain in Australia. And I think it pays... Oh, no, it's going to go out tonight, tomorrow. We're waiting for approval from the client on the wording in the listing to make sure we got that. Yeah, my first wife and I went to marriage counseling, and the marriage counselor said I had a death wish. I'm not that brave. Yeah, I want to say it's $10,000 US, which is roughly 7,000 Australian dollars. Michael, you really need to write your memoir. It'd be a great read. People tell me that, but everybody's got life experiences. It's not like I've done anything. Believe me, there are a lot of people who've done a lot of stuff way cooler than catching fish and almost dying on a parasail. My buddy Crazy Dave had his name changed as Splat by the coroner. Shoot didn't deploy. What if everybody mentioned their first concert? My wife's first concert was The Doors, and if I'm not mistaken, she got hit in the head with a drumstick. Who was the drummer? Was it Robbie Krieger was the drummer in The Doors? Is that what he did? Anyway, I'm pretty sure she got nailed in the forehead with a drumstick. Explains so much. I hope she's not watching the show. No, my wife is awesome. Everybody knows my wife loves her. Ever ride in a hot air balloon? Yes, several times. On my first romantic weekend away with my wife, Deb, took her to Palm Springs, stayed in a really swanky hotel right up against the mountain with coyotes howling all night, and we went on a sunset hot air balloon ride. I do remember us hitting the top of a tree. The basket hit the top of a tree when we were coming down and tipped the basket over, and we were kind of like sideways in the top of a tree there for a minute. That was a little scary. And then the next morning we went horseback riding out by the Salton Sea. It was awesome. So who played drums in The Doors? Oh, Robbie Krieger played guitar. Okay. Well, in any case, my wife got hit in the head with a drumstick, and I believe it was a Doors concert. John Densmore, there you go. I don't even remember what my first concert was. And there might be a good reason for that, but I don't want to say it while I'm in front of a camera. You never know, the kids could watch. Carlos Santana, 11 years old at Hammersmith Odeon in London. Wow, Andre. Oh no, that's not true. I have seen Santana live. I was selling ice cream at an outdoor concert that was, funny enough, Eric Clapton. That was also the summer when I was doing the scuba diving thing. I was selling ice cream sandwiches at rock concerts every now and then to fill in for a buddy of mine when he couldn't make it. And it was Clapton, Santana, and some other act. Spring Level, how are you? I haven't seen you in the chat room in a while. Good to have you back. Hey, Andre, by the way, you asked where you can send fish pictures, and the answer is just send it to taxitv at taxi.com, and Ariana will get them and forward them to me, and I look forward to seeing them. Jesse J. Peck, 1972. Saw Chicago and Santana in St. Louis, Missouri. Jesse, was that you that said you were born in Miami in 1955? That's right. I didn't move to Miami until like late 71, I think. Or maybe 72, I don't know. But yeah, I grew up in a farm town outside of Chicago, and I'm pretty sure my first concert was actually in Chicago. Of course, I'm discounting the fact that my famous band, the Benjamin Franklin Lightning Rod Society, did open up for Ted Nugent in the Amboy Dukes and Randy Bachman in the Guess Who. So technically, those were probably my first concerts. Wow, Liz, 1977 Led Zeppelin at the Forum. Doesn't get any better than that. Man, you're spoiled for life. Van Halen, oh my gosh, can't even imagine. That's a band I would love to see live. Spring Level says it's my treadmill hour. You and Dean Crepane. That's right. Liz says it changed her life. Yeah, it doomed you to work in the music business. Joseph Alonzo, Michael, who would you go see in concert now? I would have to say Ed Sheeran. I was just listening to Ed this morning when I woke up, by the way. I love his work. I love his craftsmanship. I like his attitude. I like his songwriting. I like his voice. I like everything about Ed Sheeran, except he's a ginger. No, I have no problem with ginger. Ginger lives matter. Did you guys ever see the episode, or there may have been more than one, where they were just pounding the crap out of gingers on South Park? That was one of those episodes where you have to like run to the bathroom and you'll pee yourself. You're laughing so hard. I just think Ed Sheeran is a true artist. He could have been from any generation. Um, he's not like a typical pop artist today where it's more about the production than it is the songcraft. I mean, he's clearly got great production on his stuff, but just everything comes together. Oh, Liz knows the South Park Ginger episode. It was hilarious. Ginger Baker, while we're on the topic of gingers, he's the coolest ginger ever. Poor Kenny in general. Yeah, they moved Comedy Central to a different channel on my cable system, so I don't bump into it nearly as often. Um, yeah, I used South Park is hysterical. Some of the most astute political observations. You never know if they're lefties or righties. I think they make equal fun of everybody, but some of I mean, it's like those guys have to be stoned all the time to do that show, to write the show. But I think they're more politically astute than any of the, political pundits on television. They're so good. Oh yeah, the South Park Christian rock episode. What was the name of the band? Remember they formed a band, totally bogus like Christian band. It was really funny. Sting in Outdoor in Irvine with Vinny on the drums. Vinny as in Vinny Cayuta? Oh yeah, Tom Cruise tried to block a show from airing. They made him look like such a doofus in that episode. Do you guys remember the Save the Whale, where they're trying to save the orca from a place like SeaWorld? I'll give you the short version for people who aren't familiar with it. So the kids go on a school field trip to a place that's like SeaWorld, and one of the kids feels really sorry for the orca. It's like this poor whale is in captivity, and I feel bad for him. So at the end of the show, he walks down through the bleachers and he walks right up to the glass of the big tank, and he starts talking. So he's talking to the whale. Well, the guys up in the audio and video control room at the top of the bleachers see the kid down there talking to the whale, so they decide to have some fun with him. So they start making the whale talk back to the kid, and the whale says, "Please help me get out of here. I'm so lonely. My family lives on the moon. Please help me get back to my family." So they put together a team of kids, and they go get a truck, um, and they get the whale. They steal the whale from SeaWorld, and they're driving somewhere, and some animal rights group, probably PETA, is like, "No, you got to put the whale back." And the PETA members jump out of their cars with machine guns and have a full-on gun battle. So, PETA is like saving lives of animals, but they'll kill people to save the lives of the animals. It's really funny. And they get into this really bloody gun battle. The kids win, and they're on their trek. They are on a mission to get this whale back to its family on the moon. So they go to, I believe they cross the border over into Mexico, and they go to this Mexican junkyard with old cars and stuff, and they buy a used, like, Titan rocket. Um, Nope, I don't remember the Kinetic Playground in Chicago. My parents didn't let me play. I had a very bad life. I'm joking. Anyway, so they buy this used Titan rocket from the junkyard, And here they are in Mexico, and they tie a rope around the rocket and the other end of the rope onto the tail of the orca whale. They fire the rocket, and up goes the rocket, carrying, dragging this orca whale behind it. And the kids are so happy because the rocket makes it to the moon, and they've returned this whale to its rightful place and its family. And the last shot of the show is the dead orca laying on the surface of the moon with its tongue hanging out of the side of its mouth. It's completely inappropriate, but what isn't on South Park? It's the best show ever. Wow, 5 minutes left. I can't believe it. Time really flies when we're talking about fish. Ariana's probably thinking, why did I ever go to work for this company? Yeah, Ariana, I don't think we should put this. I mean, what can we possibly call this episode? I got an email from somebody that was pissed off that the episode the day before yesterday, I was talking about mic technique, and the title Ariana put on it was something about mixing. And the guy actually tracked me down, I think on LinkedIn, and sent me an email saying, how dare you, it's false advertising. You said it was about mixing. I watched the whole show. You barely talked about mixing. Oh, Liz is in here too. Ariana is the show producer. Liz just likes to hang out because she loves hearing my stupid stories. First music-free episode. This isn't the last quarantini. We're not doing a show Monday. Monday, we are all going back to work at the office. We'll see how long we get to stay there with the COVID cases going back up again. Next week we're going to do Tuesday. Oh, that's right. We're off on Friday for a holiday. So we're doing Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. Fishing for a good mix. There you go. What else do I want to tell you? Yeah, so there's no show on Monday. I mean, frankly, I think everything's going to go fine with us moving in, but, we have to probably move a staffer or two to make sure that nobody's too close to each other. I went to the office one day to water plants several weeks ago. The whole phone system had blown up. So I spent a couple hours I had to reboot the phone server and then go telephone to telephone to telephone after figuring out what I needed to do to get them all back online. So I'm hoping it's okay. I mean, Liz was there today, and I'm assuming everything was fine. There you go. There's the title. Nothing about the music business, all about fishing, parasailing, and ziplining. I did zipline. Deb and I and Hannah and Gabs went ziplining in Costa Rica one time. That was awesome. Michael, did you have a specific aha moment when you knew you wanted to work in the music industry? Yes, February 9th, 1964, when the Beatles hit the stage on the Ed Sullivan Show. I was it. I was a goner. That was it. Oh, good. Liz says the phones were fine today. Title, Why Taxi is More Than Just the World's Top A&R Company. There you go. Ray Hill says I had an Asia moment instead of an aha moment. That's because he knows my favorite song in the world is Steely Dan Asia. At least as far as I have other favorite songs, but that's my favorite for best played, best engineered, best produced, best everything. Wow, 4:59. Where does the time go? It's funny. I said to my wife about 15 minutes before the show today, I got nothing. I really have no idea what we're going to do for this show. But I do like to tell stories, don't I? My favorite one-hit wonder. I don't know. I'd have to watch one of those time, those oldie things. I can't think of my favorite one-hit wonder. Yeah, I think that moment when the Beatles played on Sullivan, that changed a lot of lives. Reba's people used Asia for the sound check every night. Never got tired of it, especially over that sound system. Yep. That was always the thing that I brought with me. I think I told you I had a one generation. Well, they had digital. So I had an analog quarter inch. I think it was 30 IPS plus six level version. If I remember correctly, it was 30 IPS plus six of Asia on reel to reel. And whenever I went to work at another studio, that's what I would always have, because it also had tones. You know, it had like 100 hertz, 1K, and 10K at the top of it, front of the reel. So you could align the machine, make sure it was playing back everything where it should be, and then listen to the control room to get used to it. Yep, Dirty Work was a great Steely Dan song. They don't have too many clinkers. If you ever get a chance, oh gosh, what's her name? The background vocalist, and we should wrap this up because I've got a staff meeting in 15 minutes. Um, Background vocalist, I can't remember her name. She still sings with Steely Dan live. She's very pretty, and she also has like a solo jazz career. And I've spent a Saturday morning listening to some of her stuff, just incredibly good. Here, let's find out. What was her? Carolyn Leonard, spelled like Leonhardt, I think. Leonhart, I think. Carolyn Leonard. And I believe her husband is one of the horn players in the Steely Dan live band. But just, she's so talented. I've seen them at concert several times, and it's hard to take your eyes off her because she's just so cool. The way she moves, the way she sings. She's got the two-step down, you know? All right, let's wrap it up, everybody. Thanks for hanging out, talking about absolutely nothing related to music today. It was a lot of fun. And I will see you guys on Tuesday. Remember, no show on Monday. Quarantini Happy Hour will resume on Tuesday. We'll do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week. Keep your eyes open for that listing. The Australian one, if I remember, it was a kind of a dated but still really cool R&B track was what they've got temped in. Nancy Callell likes when I have nothing to say. Wow, you and my wife, Nance. She says that to me all the time. She'll look at me and go, you know what I really like? No, honey, what do you really like? The strong, silent type. Oh, man. Anyway, have a great weekend, you guys. See you next week on Tuesday. Back to the boring set in my office. I said to Deb we should get a big photo taken of this behind me and then blow it up. My son-in-law's stepdad actually is in that business of like blowing things up for billboards and such. So I could get a blow up of this set done and then hang it behind my desk in the office because I really like this so much better than the brown blinds behind me. Lava lamp. Yep, lava lamp's been coming back. All right, have a great weekend, you guys. See you next week. Everybody be safe, be healthy. Don't go to any bars because COVID is making a comeback. Thanks, Ariana. Thanks, Liz. Thank you guys for showing up on a Friday. See you next week for another exciting episode of TAXI's Quarantini Happy Hour. Woohoo! Don't forget to subscribe. If you don't, smash that like button, darn it. And see you next week. Bye-bye.